wet, it's pulled over a form, mounted and shaped and all of that. And then it dries down to completely dry out. And then there's finish areas around the eyes and the mouth and whatnot that have to be detailed and repairs that are made. And so these epoxies are used for that purpose. They adhere really, really well to that. And a tanned, you can imagine tanned leather, it's maybe going to move a little bit with temperature and humidity changes like wood does as well. And so when I started wood turning, I realized really quick that these epoxies would have a good use for filling cracks, making repairs, and that sort of things. So I'm going to go over those. Another product that I came across that I thought might be good for wood turning is the product is called Knot Tech, and it's a hot glue that is used for filling cracks, mainly in flat work. Flooring is recognized by the flooring industry as being a durable product that will hold up. So when I read that the fact that you can walk on this stuff and it doesn't break loose and doesn't go anywhere, that it might work just fine for filling cracks on wood turnings. The thing I didn't really realize until I tried it and experimented with it is that it's intended to be used in a high temperature hot glue gun. And if this is a board that has a crack on it, you simply just run the glue gun in there, and the stuff comes in a bunch of different colors. And then as soon as you put the glue in there, of course it's whatever, 400 degrees or 500 degrees, you use an aluminum heat sink to press it down into the crack and just push it down as flat as you can. And that pushes all the air bubbles out of it and gets it down as close to the surface as possible. And then, and it does cool it really fast as well. And so then they make a little plane, a little hand plane that they sell, and you just simply drag the hand plane and it just curls that glue up, but it cuts it flat with that surface to where you really don't have to do any sanding on it. You can put a finish right over the top and you can get a really nice clean finish with that. It does work great. If any of you do flat work, it's a product you really ought to check out and try. On the difficulty that I had with it on wood turnings is you're always dealing with a curved surface. And if you were trying to fill a crack in the side or something, there's no great way to try and get a curved bevel, that is consistent with the curve of your piece. And I tried straight blade razor blades and using that to kind of get it shaped. And I'm sure you could refine the process a little bit. I just got frustrated with it and quit using it. But I wanted to mention it just in case you are curious, or if you do flat work. It is an interesting product, and it is supposed to be really durable. Today I'm going to be talking about not just filling cracks, but also doing some enhancements. I don't know, we got an overhead here? Okay. Doing some enhancements where you have, on here? Okay. All right. Turn it here where you can see it. Where you have a hole or a void or something that you want to do something with, whether you just want something opaque to fill that in, or if you want to put a little color in it like I did on this. Epoxies in general are kind of hard to use because most of them are in liquid form, and trying to fill an area like that and come back and sand it is kind of a pain. But I'm going to show you a couple of different ways of doing that is real quick and easy. There we go. This is the same way. Excuse my finish on these. These are obviously not finished yet. But quick and easy way of doing those. And then on cracks and repairs, I turn a lot of, this is a piece of manzanita that was just looked like a piece of driftwood with 4 or 5 limbs sticking out. And when you start turning these, you really never know. You want to be safe about it, but you really don't know how well it's going to hold together. And until you start turning and start working on it. And occasionally I'll have a piece like this that you start turning and there's an area that's a little iffy on it. And of course we've all used ribbon. I'm sorry?
Push it just a little bit forward. There you go.
Okay. We've all used ribbon tape and things to, to run around as a safety issue. But on a few pieces I have used some of this epoxy, and I'll show you which one, to actually turn it to a certain point, use some epoxy to fill a crack or a place that's a little iffy, put a bag over it overnight, and then start turning again the next day. And this epoxy will adhere really well to a damp surface, and it cures slow. You basically need overnight for it to completely cure, but it will adhere really well. And so sometimes pieces that have that issue, I have used that before, just as part of the turning process, is just a little bit of a safety thing. This piece of redbud had an area between these two voids that was going to break and was going to fall apart. And so I did that. I put epoxy in, let it set overnight, went ahead and turned the outside, and then hollowed it. And it kept everything together long enough to go ahead and finish the piece. Both of these epoxies can be tinted with different colors, which makes it handy because you can make them completely black if you want, or if you want to try to get a wood tone and mix a combination of colors together, you can do that. You can add coffee grounds to it. One of these pieces, I added some tan colorant to it, and just added some coffee grounds to it. It gives it kind of a salt and pepper type of look. So there's a lot of ways you can manipulate it and make it look something other than just a dark section. And you can do super bright colors as well with it. But there's two main types of epoxy here. One is called Epoxy Sculpt. Let me see here. Is that going to be better? Okay. This one is Epoxy Sculpt, and it's a 2-part epoxy. It looks like sort of looks like clay when you get an equal amount of both. You don't have to. It's not super critical on the mix. You just get an equal amount approximately, and then you just knead it together like dough. And the easiest way to mix this stuff is to just turn your sink on and get some warm water and just mix it under the water and just let it blend together, and it softens the epoxy, and of course washes the stuff off of your fingers as you go. But it does make it really easy to mix together and get it real creamy and smooth. And so you just keep kneading it together until you get the components completely mixed up. And if you leave it like it is, you're going to have about a half an hour or 40 minutes of working time. It'll gradually get firmer and firmer, but you have at least a half an hour of working time with it that you can use it. If you let it dry like it is, it's going to turn kind of a beige gray sort of color. But to use it, if you're wanting to add color to it, you can use acrylic paints, just a little tiny dab of acrylic paint, added to it will change the color. The best way to color it is with mortar dyes, and there is concrete dyes that are, think of tempera paint, kind of supercharged tempera paint. It takes very little of the stuff to actually color it. They're in powdered form, and they use them for concrete and plaster to mix in to color it to whatever they're wanting to do. The problem with it is that they usually sell it in 10 or 20 pound bags, so it's hard to find the stuff in small quantities. There's a company called IASCO that is in Minneapolis. It's Industrial Art Supply Company. It's kind of a cool little catalog. It makes you think of when you were a kid, and there's all kinds of experiments and different things, you know, in here. It's a neat little catalog, but they do have some neat products in here, and one of them is you can get a sample of 8 or 10 different colors, and they're in little packets like that. And they're mortar dyes. They come in bright colors, you know, orange and yellow and red, and a couple of earth tones. And this is the easiest way to buy this stuff if you don't want to use acrylic paints. This stuff is super concentrated. The reason why I use it generally instead of acrylic paints is acrylics, by the time you get enough in there to make it a dark color, say black or a really dark brown, it has a tendency to make this kind of sticky, and it's a little harder to work. You can do it and it'll work okay, but the powdered colors just seem to work way better. And I'm sorry? Well, with this one, mica powder will not work because it's going to dry, it's going to be opaque. The other one that I'm going to show you, mica powder will work with it just fine. And on this, if you wanted to make some kind of blended color, you can simply mix up a batch of one color or add 2 or 3 colors to it. You know, add a dark brown or a black or something, and then mix those two together and just kind of swirl them, you know, in a mix without completely mixing them. And then when you go to fill a crack, you just have to shove the stuff in and just fill the hole.
You move just a little bit forward again, Don.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, help me out with that because I'm brain dead when it comes to paying attention here. And then you can leave the surface proud like that. Or if there's some reason that you want to smooth it out, this stuff smooths really well with water, and you can just dip your finger in water and it'll just smooth like glass. Let it set overnight, and then you can sand it and file it. And if you need to add a little more, the stuff sticks to itself really well. So there's no problem with adhesion on adding more if you have a little. I'm sorry?
Does that dry clear or?
No, this is going to dry opaque. This one is the product that you would want to use if you're wanting to fill a crack and make it, or a defect or something, and make it dark colored, whether you tried to model that up or you wanted just a solid color in there. But it does have real good adhesion to wood. It sticks really, really well. And both of these products have been around for 40 years. You know, they've stood the test of time, and they're really, really good epoxies.
Where's a good place to buy the epoxy?
Okay, you can buy the epoxy sculpt. You could get online, and you can find it online probably. I don't know if it's on Amazon, but you can certainly get on their website and do it. Another place that is worth checking out is this company. Let's see here. There we go. Oh, up here? Okay. Matuska Taxidermy Supply. They're out of Iowa, and they have a good website. And you'll find when you're welcome to look through this catalog after the demo, but there's a lot of products in here that there's spatulas and airbrushes and airbrush paints and different kinds of epoxies other than these. And there's a lot of products in here that you may find that are pretty interesting, and they're good folks. And you normally, if you order it today, you'll get it tomorrow. They're good on shipping and whatnot. But they do sell these products. These are the bigger container of it. They sell a small container that's maybe, 6 ounces or something of each one. And the smaller containers will last you, the product will go bad before you ever use it all. It does have a really good shelf life on it, but it goes a long, long way. So both of these products would be good to have in your clubhouse, as just have a sample of each one where you guys can use it and try it and try it out and have it. Anyway, this one, the epoxy sculpt, is going to make opaque colors, whether that is bright pink or earth tones. You can do anything that you want with it. Does anybody have any questions about this one that I haven't covered?
Is that dry, like drywall mud, kind of goes in concave, or does it stay when it dries?
Does it shrink down, you mean? Is that your question? It really has very, very little shrinkage to it. When I'm filling something, I'll usually leave it proud above the surface, because the epoxy sculpt is the softer of these two as far as sanding and whatnot. It's still going to be harder than most of the woods that you would put it in, but it does sand really well the next day. And so by leaving it a little bit proud on the surface, the best way of dealing with it when you have it overfilled a bit is to just take a flat file, whether depending on what you're doing, a bigger one or a smaller one, and when you have that, have a proud surface, you can work it down with a file really quick and get it down to the point where you're almost down to the wood before you start sanding it. And then it takes very little sanding to get the rest of it removed and done.
Can you put inlay in it?
This one, not so much, because it's dark, because it's opaque. You could. I noticed out here in the other room, somebody had done some that were maybe done with milliput putty that I'm sure most of you have heard that name. This product is very similar to milliput, only less expensive, and so you could take this and take several colors. You could have 2 or 3 different. Oops, I don't want to use my file on that. Use 2 or 3 different colors, and you could roll it out into little sausages, and then roll those sausages together and kind of blend it, and then push it in a crack or an inlay or something around the outside, and do the same sort of thing that people are doing with milliput to make kind of a decorative look with it.
Do you think that this product provides strength? If you had a crack in a bowl length that you were working on, you developed a crack and filled it with this product, would it actually strengthen the crack, or is it just filling the hole?
This one, this does have good adhesion and would do a pretty good job of adhering all of that together. The other product I'm going to talk about has a little better properties. It's a little stickier and has a little more. It's a little more glue-like. So if you had a crack or something that you were wanting to make sure that you were actually bonding something together, the other product here that I'm going to talk about is a better choice for that. And what you're describing, or what you're talking about, let's see here. This piece of white oak, I turned and it had some obvious things going on when I turned it, which I knew would maybe present some problems. What I wasn't expecting is to get it cracked from here all the way down to the base while it was drying, and that crack opened up about a half an inch, and then as it dried back down, it closed back down most of the way, but one side was a little proud of the other side. It was sticking up just a little bit. So the smooth-on product, the other epoxy here, I mixed it up, added a little bit of color to it, took a little long needle. I have these little stainless steel needles that are real strong, but long enough to grab hold of, and just dip some of the epoxy in that and push it down into that crack, going all the way down in. And then I just took a clamp, round hose clamp, and clamped it together. And again, I left it kind of proud on the surface here so that I was squeezing out the excess that was on there. And then down below, you can see I filed this off flat. I left this the way that it looked after I glued it, but it'll give you an idea down here with it being filed off. And of course, when you add some finish to it, again, you can make this stuff as dark or as light as you want on it. But this product is a really good glue for the purposes you talked about, and I'm confident that crack is never going to come apart. That thing is glued for good. It had some stress cracks around the pith on this that I did the same thing. I used the pin to kind of push them down into the surface there, and then I'll come back and hit this with a file and knock this down. And
How deep do you think you can get the epoxy sculpt? Like to go down into you've got something fairly deep. Is that still the right product, or should it be something else?
I'm sorry, I'm so deaf, I didn't hear a word you said.
I said, how deep can you get the epoxy sculpt to go?
Well, I tried to, this is fairly thin. This is only about 3/16 thick. So I pushed it all the way down into the inside, into the crack as far as I could. And I'm sure that on this other one, I haven't looked down in here with the flashlight, but I'm sure a little bit of it pushed out into the inside of the turning. If you were doing something that had a bigger opening where you were concerned about that, if it's big enough opening that you can reach your hand in there, after this was clamped together, you could dip your fingers in water and reach in, and you could smooth that junction out, completely smooth on the inside. If it's in a place where you can't physically get your hands into, you can use a paintbrush and dip it in water and get in there and do a pretty good job of smoothing it out with a paintbrush as well. So anything that you create on the inside is pretty fixable to where you just don't have a lump or a ridge or something in there.
You talked about filing that stuff off. Can you turn it off?
You can, you can turn it off if now this one has dry. This was once turned and dried, and it's out of round and whatnot. But if it was something that was that you were fixing that was round, sure, you can turn it off. The stuff will turn fairly well. But on something like this, just simply hitting it with the file will knock down the surface pretty quick and get most of it knocked off before you actually start sanding.
I use blue painter's tape because it goes on, holds it enough, and then comes off very easy.
I'm sorry, you use what?
Painter's tape.
Okay, yeah, painter's tape. On some of the cracks and things that I fill, like this one, where I have a hole that goes all the way through, this silver duct tape is what I use on that to seal the inside, so that cut a piece of this and reach in and push it in place, and this stuff sticks really, really well, and it gives you something in the back to fill into for something decorative like that. This product, this Magic Smooth, is the one that is a little stickier that we were talking about. And it is not completely transparent. It'll dry translucent, maybe with just a little bit of a yellow cast to it. But it works really well if you're wanting to add some mica powders to it to color it up. But you still want to have some transparency. It works really well for that. But this one is too sticky to mix with your hands. You're going to have to use a little mixing stick or something.
What's that product name?
This product is called Magic Smooth, and it's the one that's going to be a little more clear. And yep, where are we at here? All right. I'm sorry, what?
Go to the center.
Go to this one?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Instant notes.
All right. But this product, if you're going to if you were going to do this, where you wanted some color and a little something extra on it, you can mix it up. You can add, there's all kinds of mica powders that are a jillion different, I have a whole box of different colors here that people use with epoxy work. You can use whatever color that you want on that, and it doesn't take very much of it mixed in to blend and get you a little background. If you add too much of it, you're going to kill all your transparency or translucency that you have on it. But you can add a little bit of color. You can add 2 or 3 colors if you want to get a little bit of a swirling effect like they do on epoxy pours. You can mix one up on one side and mix another one up on the other side, and then blend these two together and just get a little bit of a swirl before you put it in your depression that you're trying to fill. And
How's the shelf life on that, Don?
it's very good. It easily a year just sitting on the shelf. If you want to make it last and you're not using it every day, you can put both of these products in a little refrigerator or something if you have a shop refrigerator, which will make it better. What?
Keep it cool.
Yeah, keep it cool, and it does have a little longer shelf life. I never refrigerated it when I was using this stuff daily, and usually I would use up a container before it ever started to go bad. But the Magic Smooth, the one that's like paste, seems to, as it dries out, it'll get a little bit thicker, a little bit harder to mix, but it's still workable. It doesn't ever go bad to the point where it doesn't kick off or doesn't work. And both of these are non-critical 50-50 mixes. You can just guesstimate it and get it close, and that's good enough. But on filling a crack with this stuff, you can get a little bit of color in it, and my hole's pretty deep there. I may not have enough to actually fill the thing, but you can put it in your crack and try to, use a pen or something and push it all the way down and get the crack or the depression filled as much as you can. And then a neat little trick to make it have a little pop, make it have a little bit more pizzazz is I discovered these, they're called Easy Inlays, and I got these at Rockler or Woodcraft, and they make several colors. This is kind of a copper opal color. This one is turquoise, and a lot of people with mesquite love to do turquoise inlays and that sort of thing with mesquite wood. And this is is a really easy way of getting that look with a lot easier than using turquoise, because you can make this background color as light or as blue as you want, and then these are little chunks of fake opal, and you just taking you have some sticky stuff on your pen, and just take and grab them and put some in there, and then just dip your finger in water and just press them down to the surface, or just a little bit proud of the surface there. And I don't know how well this is going to show up with all the reflection, but right now the blue looks kind of the epoxy looks kind of opaque blue. It's going to clear up as it dries, and these little opal chunks that are in there are sticking up a little bit proud of the surface, and then the next day you can go back and file it off, sand it down, and you'll get an effect that is going to look like.
So what is the
Like that.
cure time on it?
Cure time on this is overnight for sanding. Both of these, the opaque one, they say you can sand it in 4 hours, but it maybe if you put it in the sunshine and or in front of some heat or a wood stove or something, you could maybe do that. It's easier just to leave them overnight and sand them the next day, because you know they're going to be dry. This one is a little slower to kick off than the other one as far as sanding time. But next day, no problem, you can sand both of them. But doing that with the inlays and the little opal chips, you can get a really nice filled-in pattern that filled-in pattern that just has some little reflective chips in it that look pretty nice, like some of the epoxy pours. But the beauty of it is it's really quick and really easy to do, because filling that whole crack can be done in 5 minutes total time, and then just sanding the next day and you're good to go.
I know you probably answered this already, but on both products, how much work time do you have before it starts getting too gunny?
The one that is the opaque one, the epoxy sculpt, you have at least a half an hour. The Magic Smooth is maybe a little bit longer than that as far as mixing and adding it. I'll usually mix smaller batches of it. If I'm doing doing a bigger area or something, I'll mix smaller batches, and then because it'll stick to itself, and
Will it take color on top after it's cured?
oh yeah, you can paint right over the top of these. They'll in the taxidermy world, all of these products are painted over after they're done. So if there was some reason you needed to paint it, if you were just wanting to fill something that was going to be painted anyway, these would work great for that, and then paint over the top.
Does it penetrate the wood like if you were going to stain the wood?
If you're talking about soaking out into the outer edges,
Like a CA will.
kind of a blush, yeah. They really don't. If you fill, what can color the wood a little bit is these powders, these opaque powders, particularly if you start going black or really dark. They have so much pigment in them that if you get that pigment on the wood, you're going to have to sand it off. But right around the edge of where you filled, they're thick enough that they don't blush out into that edge and cause you any problems as far as like you would have with CA glue. The difference between these and CA glues, I just almost quit using them altogether. They're quick and they work fast. These are not nearly as brittle as CA glues. If I was filling a really fine, thin crack or something that really didn't need any filler, I would use CA, but for anything that's any wider than that, these epoxies work really well for me. So I don't use that much CA anymore. The other thing that first epoxy that I mixed up will work really well for is oddball. Let's see here. Where are we at here? Right here? Okay. I'm sorry. This is I need to be farther. Y'all are going to be dizzy by the time I get done with this. This piece of box elder, when I started turning it, the opening that I was going to hollow through, I didn't make a great choice on where I chose for that to be. So I ended up with a hole through here that all of this on the sides disappeared, and I had this U-shaped side here and this U-shaped side there that I wasn't in love with. And then I knocked the bark off of the one side where I wanted to keep the bark. And so this side, I reshaped it a little bit, rounded it off, and then just made the bark texture with this epoxy sculpt. And just simply by adding a little bit of color to it, I used a piece of styrofoam, like boat dock blue styrofoam, and just dip it in water and use that for the texturing pad. A Scotch-Brite pad might work on that too, just to get some texture on that. This side is filled with it as well, and I left it on there because after I filled it, I didn't like the shape of it, and I'm going to grind this off and round this surface out to kind of match that, and then I'll rebuild that and make the bark type surface out of it as well. And so, because on this the only choice was to either try to rebuild it or just go ahead and grind and get rid of the rest of the bark, because it wasn't going to look good half and half. But again, a real quick, this repair was 5 minutes. It doesn't take any time to try to repair something and do it.
What colors did you use to mix in it to get the bark color?
On that one, I just used the powdered, basically the same color as what I mixed up here, the kind of tan or medium brown powder paint. But acrylic paints, again, if you were trying to fine tune and you were really trying to match a certain color, you can add just a little bit of acrylic paints, because it doesn't, if you're wanting to just make this slightly more brown than what it is, you can do so with just a little bit of acrylic paint.
If you're going to create a texture like you did for the bark,
Mm-hmm.
how long in the drying process is it that you need to start?
Oh, start working with it? Well, that, actually on that, the question was how long you have to wait in order to start doing some texturing or doing some work on it. Sometimes the best thing you can do when doing the texture work is just to wait. Just give it a half hour or 40 minutes, and that stuff will firm up, and it won't snap set. They'll just gradually get firmer and firmer and firmer. So you have plenty of time with it, and it's sometimes a lot easier to just wait. Go drink a cup of coffee and wait 15 minutes or something, or 20 minutes, and then come back and start doing some of that, because the product is not as smooth and soft. And something like, if there was some reason that you were going to do a lot of bark texture or something like that, or some other reason that you were going to do a bigger area where you really wanted to get a good detail, you could take latex rubber, which you can buy at Michael's or Hobby Lobby in a little can, and you can actually brush 2 or 3 or 4 layers of that onto the texture, whether it's bark or some other texture that you're trying to emulate. Brush it on, let them dry in between coats until you get a little press pad, basically. You peel that off, and then you can dip that press pad in water and press it into the epoxy, and so you could get an exact carbon copy of the bark by doing that if there was some reason that you.
That's a latex rubber?
Latex rubber, and you can get it in the craft section there at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, either one, and it's just it's maybe the consistency of cold cream. It's the same stuff that they make latex masks out of for Halloween. But it's the one that they sell is brushable, and so it's actually a really handy product for a lot of reasons, other than just mold making. I use it for if I have a once turned bowl or something that I've done that or a hollow form that maybe is turned and oriented so the pith is on both sides, and I'm not going to put it back on the lathe and turn it a second time. I don't want to anchor seal that because I don't want to deal with the anchor seal and whatever finish I'm going to put on it, but I want to slow down the drying process on those sides to try to minimize, especially on end grain, anything that's end grain, to try and slow that down so that it is not drying too fast. I'll take the latex rubber and just brush a coat of latex rubber on, on all of that pith area, and do it, or end grain, do it on both sides, and just brush one layer on. It will adhere to the damp surface of the fresh, green wood, but then it'll stay on for as long as you want to keep it on. But then when you go to when your piece is dried and you want to get rid of it, you can just peel it off as a big sheet. You just grab hold of it and start pulling on it, and it'll release and pull off, but it doesn't leave any residue on the wood. And so it's kind of a neat product that I've been playing with, and it works really, really well for that on things that you want to seal up temporarily that you don't want to use anchor seal or something on. So. Okay, one other product that is pretty new in my arsenal anyway. There was a article in the last month's AAW magazine about it, which I was kind of glad to see because I've been playing with it for a little while, and I didn't know if anybody else had used it or not, but it is a UV resin. And
Put it on the phone.
on here, okay,
Perfect.
there we go, okay. It's UV resin, and this product is used a lot by guys that make custom lures. There's a huge industry of people making custom painted fishing lures, and this product is pretty popular in that industry because they'll make a batch of custom lures that are custom painted, and they want a surface on it, and they want a finish on it that's hard and durable, but something that that doesn't stink up the shop and dries very quick. And so they'll make a carousel where they can put a bunch of them on at one time with a little thing that rotates it, and put it in a box with a UV. They'll just simply dip the lures in there and hook them on, and it just turns real slow, and then a bigger UV light over the top of it, and the stuff will cure in a matter of 5 or 10 minutes and be rock hard. Well, for that same reason, the fact that it cures by UV makes it really handy to fill cracks and depressions and things with. We'll just do it on this little cherry vase. This cherry vase has a little place at the top that has a little indent on there that I could have and should have maybe just turned it away, and but at the time it had bark in it that stayed, and I thought it might stay, and it didn't. So I could, if I still had a tenon on this, I could put it on the lathe and return it and get it shortened up. But if I wanted to fix it, it's a pretty quick and easy process to do something with that. And all right, so to oh, there it is. So this resin, you can get on Amazon, and you can find the Chinese knockoff version of this, and it might work, it might be just fine. This one is made by Total Boat, which is a company that makes lots of guys that do big epoxy pours for epoxy tables. Total Boat is a place where you get your epoxy or fiberglass resins from. But they have a really good line of products, and I trust them. But if you wanted to do something that, you could do this just crystal clear if you wanted to do it crystal clear, but if you wanted to do something that was maybe going to pop a little bit more than that, you can get just a little bit of the resin.
Does it matter which epoxy you mix with that UV resin?
Does what?
Does it matter which epoxy you mix with the UV resin?
Well, this stuff, you're just using the UV resin by itself. You're just using the UV resin, and then on coloring, you can add any kind of colorant you want to it, any kind of mica powder if you want it to have a little bit of color to it. But you can just simply put it in. And if you want this, if you're filling an area where this is a little bit too thin and it's running away on you, you can put this stuff in the refrigerator and chill it down, and it's going to thicken up, but it won't affect. I mean, it might slow down how long it takes to kick, but it will still cure. And so something like that is real quick and easy to do. And then to cure it, I'm going to cover this up just because I don't think we're probably supposed to look at this UV light. But when you order the product, it comes with a little UV flashlight that you buy with it, and you just simply cure it with the UV light. They make bigger fluorescent style bulbs if you were going to do a bigger process with it, that you could cure it better and faster. And you can also just put it out in the sunshine, and it'll cure outside in the sunshine real easily. But however long that's been, maybe 30 seconds. Yeah, it's already firm. It may not be 100% cured, but it's already set up and solid. So it's a great little way of doing some kind of quick repair where you're wanting some transparency and wanting something other than just a dark filled surface.
How thick can you pour that? I mean, or how deep of a crack, and then would it cure the same way?
Well, the question was how thick you can do it. I have not tried any real thick stuff with it. My understanding is you might want to cure it as you go, do a layer and cure it and do it. The thing I did learn by accident on this is I had an oak bowl that had all kinds of little bug holes in the bottom of it, and they were 16th or 32nd. They weren't very big, and I wanted to fill all of those, and I took this resin and I mixed some of this powder to it. I just wanted to fill them dark, and I was trying to do it quickly where I could just go ahead and sand it 30 minutes later or 20 minutes later. And so I mixed the opaque powder with it and then tried to do it, and it wouldn't set up, and it wouldn't set up, and it wouldn't set up. And the light kind of went on. The only way this stuff sets up is if the light can get to it. So if you add enough pigment to it or enough other junk to it, the UV light can't get to it and it won't set up. So I don't even know if that's bowl. I haven't checked it in a while, but I don't know that it will ever set up with as much pigment as I had in it.
What's the shelf life?
This one I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. Obviously, keep it in your cabinet out of the way. But I don't know what the shelf life on this one would be. This bottle, is the smallest bottle that this is 7 ounces, and this will probably
Answer to the question,
use me a long time.
it'll last forever if we keep it cool.
Okay, there you go.
I've got a little experience with it.
Okay, good. Okay.
The internet says 12 to 24 months.
Okay.
Keep it cool, it'll last longer than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true of most epoxies like to stay cool. So
Dentists use it, that's why they stick that light on the crown.
That's what he's talking about, yeah.
yeah.
Doc, how long does it last on a tooth?
No, you don't want it to last very long, it won't come back, so, a week or two.
It's too dark. I had a bunch of things here. I was going to pass all of this stuff around, but it's so dark that you wouldn't.
We can fix that.
Okay, all righty. I can pass all of these samples around to where you can look at them and handle them, and by all means, take your pocket knife and chip on them if you want to check them.
Do you ever use just the 5-minute epoxy when it comes in that little syringe? I use that kind of like what we used to do with UV, mix color in it, and it dries pretty quick.
I have used 5-minute epoxy. I have a little more faith in some of the epoxies that cure a little longer as far as being a little stronger. It seems like the epoxies that, the 5-minute style epoxy that maybe takes 3 or 4 hours to dry instead of 5 minutes is a better product or stronger product than what 5-minute is. I'm going to pass some of these around where you guys can handle them and look at them firsthand here. And some of these little flat boards that have holes filled in them, I wrote on here which type of epoxy was used on it to do this type of effect. And then and I did put some 5-minute epoxy over the top to just kind of give you an idea of what it would look like with a good clear finish on it, just kind of make it pop a little bit. The cost on these epoxies, to give you an idea, the smaller container of this one is $24 for a two-unit kit, and again, it's way more epoxy than what probably any one individual in here is going to use. So it would, like I said, it would be a great thing to have out at your clubhouse or something where you guys can all use it when you need it, because otherwise it's going to probably go bad before we ever use it. And the other one is $24 as well. So they do come, in this one in particular, this epoxy sculpt, if you get online with the company, AV Studios, that makes it, they make it in probably 20 different colors. But the natural color is the easiest one to use because you're starting off with a gray or a tan background, and then you can modify it and make it into anything that you want. Yes?
I've already Googled everything, and the prices that Don just said, I believe they're cheaper than Amazon. So the taxidermy place
Is cheaper than Amazon.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the way to go. It
Okay.
looks like. I would double check it. But.
Okay, all right. And then this, I'll pass this catalog along. This is kind of a cool catalog with a bunch of stuff that'll take you back into your childhood with from the days when we used to love getting catalogs with little gadgets and things in it to do. Are there any other questions? Hold up what?
Yeah, the total boat.
Oh, the total boat? Sure.
Just put it on the Remax.
Straight up and down? There we go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Don, have you ever used the thickener from Total Boat that you mix with epoxy?
Epoxy thickener?
Yeah.
I have not. No. Now I've used all kinds of reinforcing thickeners, milled fibers, and some of those to thicken up epoxy, but those almost always make it white. You know, you can take a clear product and they end up making it white or gray.
Guys, he's not through with his demo yet.
Because they're reinforcing the thing. So most anything that I've seen anyway that you would add to it to thicken it up is going to change the color of it. So putting it in the freezer or the refrigerator is the easiest way to thicken it up a little bit, just so it's not running. But if you had a bigger thing that you were trying to fill using the UV resin, it sticks great to itself, so you can put a little in, hit it with a flashlight to get it to start curing, and then add to it and build up from there. Is there anything else? All right, guys, that's all I've got.